Thanks for sharing that, Rand. For me, it's the gender shaming. Men don't cry. Tough it out. All these things, and what that does is make men become emotionally constipated. When there's no release, there's that suppression again, and we don't feel that it's safe to even express ourselves because the stigma that's attached to that, and how would I look? When everything becomes weak, it makes me over aggressively in tone, and it's almost like a person would ask, "Why are you talking so rough?" Well, I just want to make sure that I'm not weak when I'm
Wow.
expressing myself. So we overcompensate for those things because we have been taught like men really don't express their emotions. So when we do, we have to talk with our chest. And these are some of the myths that just don't hurt us as a male, but it hurts our culture as a whole.
Oh, Mr. Al, you just spoke a whole word for real. Like, I literally just had a conversation with my youngest sister today. She has a 3-year-old son. And I called her, I told her, I said, I just want to tell you I'm proud of you because of how you gentle parent him. In a lot of cultures, you hear that word gentle parenting, it's like, oh no, they not disciplining them. But no, I told her, I said, when my nephew gets upset and he starts having tantrums and stuff, she will look at him and say, "It's okay. Are you upset? It's okay to be upset. Are you upset with mommy? Okay, that's fine. And if you need to cry about it, that's fine too. If you need to take a break, that's fine too." And I'm like, starting that at an early age, it
Yeah.
helps to not have that weakness. It helps to not have the mindset of being vulnerable is weakness. So, Mr. Al, you really just like spoke a word there. And even recently, just a couple of days ago, I saw a post on Facebook and I shared it. There was someone saying, "Men, please talk because we do care." And reading the comments that were under there, like it really hurt me to my heart because so many men were like, "For what? Just so y'all can pick at us later? For what? Just so you can use it against us later?" And even one comment said, "My own mother doesn't care, so why would I trust you to care?"
Wow. It is so crazy that you just said that about that post because I was at a friend's house yesterday for a birthday party. My friend and her husband, their son was born on Valentine's Day.
Ooh,
Um,
love
and
baby.
I was over there and before we left, we just got into this conversation, and the husband was sharing with me about how he's a part of this men's group, but he was saying how he was like, it's hard for men to talk. He said, but I tell you, he said, it really does feel good when you find a safe space. He said, because we might not talk a lot, but he said, when we do get in a place where we can feel safe just to get it out, he said, sometimes we might not have a whole bunch of solution in the moment, but at the very least, we just get it out. And I just was like, wow, like, and you could just tell how as I was watching him say what he was sharing, I could just sense like how he could, I could sense this sense of relief he felt with the idea of knowing he had a safe space to just talk amongst other men. And I was just like, wow, like it would be amazing if more men had access to that kind of a safe space. And apparently it is much needed. And this was a black male talking to me saying this.
It's
Wow.
definitely needed. I just had a conversation with one of my friends recently, just a couple of days ago, after I saw the post, before I saw it again and actually shared it on my Facebook because I, put it on my platform. Man, listen, it's safe to rest your sword here. But when I was talking to my friend, it's a masculine energy, and I was just sharing with him the concern. He said, "Well, like you said, that's when, first of all, it's going to separate one men from the young boys." He said, because a lot of young boys are going to look at it from an ego type thing. One, they're not going to feel comfortable just laying it all out in front of another man. They're gonna feel like the ego is, oh no, you're not gonna consider me weak or come to me like that. So when I say I went down a rabbit hole with this, I asked him, I said, so what do you think it would take, for men to come together to feel safe, to know that they're held in a supported space? And tell you the truth, Mr. Al, I told my friend that I was talking to the other day, I said, listen, with March being Mental Health Awareness Month, I almost want to call Mr. Al and see, like, okay, you a trusted source. What can we do to create this space for men, with Dia and I being feminine energy, just putting it out there that men, I'm standing 10 toes on this, and I feel confident being, around Mr. Al. If there's somebody that's a safe space, men come together, going back to the old barbershop days. That's what it made me think about. The men being in the barbershop and just being able to rest your swords, to lay it all down, to just unburden yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. Men lead today, especially Black men, in heart attacks. And just releasing emotions alleviates stress. It boosts the immune system. I mean, so there are some benefits from releasing these emotions. And as I say, if we constipate it, now that gives our physical capacity a backseat. And now we're damaging our health. So holding on to things does not do us any pleasure. So releasing these, anytime anything goes into the body or on the skin, it needs to be removed or digested or released in some type of form or fashion. Holding on to it does not create us any type of benefit. So we have to let it go. There should be men rituals of, hey, how can I release this? How can I let it go? And when we find, sometimes we spend too much time, maybe because we're so skeptical, seeing if this a safe space to even release anything. And when we don't find that space, we just bottle it up and hold on to it.
Wow.
And so there are some benefits in releasing, physical benefits and health benefits of releasing these emotions.
See what I'm talking about? I told y'all, Mr. Al is, listen, men, if y'all need somebody to talk to on this platform, there's a way to get the contact information. If you don't feel comfortable releasing these emotions with the woman, Mr. Al, he right there. He right there.
Yep.
Ready to hold space for it. Oh my goodness. All right.
I love that.
Yes.
When he said men ritual, there should be a men ritual.
We working on this. That's what this platform is all about communal healing.
Yeah.
And this is a sacred space to do that. So, Mr. Al, dear, we definitely gonna work on something about this, because I like that too, dear. That ritual is really sticking out to me, because the more and more that you do it, it's like the more and more comfortable you become releasing these unprocessed emotions and traumas. And
the phrases we inherit can become emotional armor, but armor also keeps us guarded. True strength isn't suppression, it's safe expression. When we create spaces to release what we've been taught to hold in, we protect our health, our relationships, and the next generation.
So, with that being said, I'm going to dive right on into question number 4, because it just smooth transition into it. How does unprocessed emotional trauma show up in communication, especially in close relationships like parenting, partnership, or community?
I'm gonna say, for me, in my experience, it can show up in breakdowns, in saying things that you don't really mean to say, and not even intentionally, like trying to be hurtful, but because you don't really know what you're trying to say, because you don't have the practice of communicating and sharing how you feel. You just say things maybe out of practice or out of, I'm reaching for vocabulary. I'm reaching for vocabulary and I don't really have it. So I'm just going to say what is in me to say. Like they say, ketchup bottle ain't going to give mustard. If you don't have the words, the vocabulary, the practices on the inside, when it comes time to confront certain things with the people that you love, you don't you default to what you know. And a lot of times that can just be out of, you just start to, your voice gets higher because you can't really say what you're trying to say. So if I talk louder, you can hear me. But that don't mean you can hear me. That
That's
I'm
right.
just talking real loud and saying a bunch of words that you still ain't getting, and we are not getting each other. And so for me, what I have learned through time, what I have learned through listening, what I have learned through being in spaces like, classes that teach you about boundaries and stuff like that. I have learned for myself that one of the things that is important for me whenever I am feeling the feels of something that is bothering me and I need to talk it out, give myself, I'm the person, I need a minute. I need a minute to go sit with myself, to sit with God. And I wanted to go back to like things that we have been told or certain, because one of the things for me was growing up hearing you don't question God. And for me, throughout life, how that translated for me is when things would happen that I didn't understand, that for a part of me wanted to blame God about, or if it was something, related to my relationship with God, it was hard for me to have real transparent conversations with God because I'm not supposed to question him. But if I'm not questioning him and I'm not really being honest with how I feel, then how do I really communicate what I really need to say to him? But in my time, I have come to a revelation with myself and God that I can question him. I can give him my real, true, honest questions, not ones out of disrespect, not ones out of, I don't even have faith in you anymore. And even in the moments now where I feel like I don't, I now feel that confidence with him to say, I don't feel the faith right now. I don't understand this right now. But that has also given me more of a confidence of saying, give myself a minute. Let me sit with the spirit. Let me sit
Yeah.
with, this moment here so I can really understand what's the core of what I'm really feeling right now. What is the thing that has really got me upset? What is the real question that I really need an answer to right now? And it's like in learning how to take that moment before I just start spewing things out of my mouth, because sometimes, like I say, I can be an impulsive person sometimes. But I'm realizing that when it comes to really having healthy communication, whether it be with my spouse, whether it be with my daughter, whether it be with God, sometimes I need to give myself just a minute. And when I give myself that minute, sometimes I'm able to really understand, and even learning that, because sometimes I've even learned that, let's just say even with my spouse, sometimes I can create my own narrative in my head that I've done worked my own self up about. Now I'm frustrated about something that I haven't communicated, that this is what I'm thinking, but now I've got a whole situation going on in the inside that I am directing something towards you, and I'm going to start spewing out of it, and it's not even real. It's just something I've just created in my own mind. And then sometimes the situation is real, but it still it does me so much good and benefit when I take a moment to really clearly understand what it is that I'm upset about, or that I'm really feeling. And then once I can give myself that minute, a lot of the times I'm able to come back and speak a little bit more clearly, have better words that I can bring to the table, and have a real conversation that then leads to peace rather than extra, chaos or extra confusion. So
Thank you, dear. Definitely thank you for touching on that point and sharing that, because you're absolutely correct. Oftentimes, as human beings, we make up things up here. And like you said, we're like spewing emotion off of what it is that we've made up here. And it may not even necessarily be existent. So, Mr. Al, how do you say unprocessed emotional trauma shows up in communication?
I think they have done an excellent job at expressing that and providing a type of wellness tool that we can use. And this what I would say. It's a shame on us that we're so professional that we won't send out an email before we edit that email. We'll look at it and say, oh man, let me make sure that all the because we don't want the embarrassment of this person doesn't seem or appear to be a professional. So we make sure that we examine it before it goes out. We should do the same, especially when we are expressing ourselves to our loved ones or even our social circles. Because if I took that minute, as Dia is suggesting, then I can regulate the things that come out of my mouth. I can hold myself accountable. I can process what's really meant without the resentment, guilt, or shame coming out as well. So I'm filtering before I even open my mouth. And that's kind of all I have to add to that is just maybe fact check what we're saying. Because a lot of times we say things out of anger, or how many times we have to apologize for saying things that we don't mean. Just if, and I want to add this, for I serve the justice involved individuals. Had they taken out maybe 15 minutes of their time before they thought that their criminal act was a good idea, it may have saved them 15 years to life. So just that process is very important.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Wow.
I mean, I agree with everything that both of you all have said. Like Dia said, it shows up in communication through tone. What that can look like is feeling like one has to yell in order to get their point across. And not just yelling at your spouse, but one thing that really that just burns my bottom, as the old people say. It's like hearing people, yelling at your kids before they go to school and expecting them to have a good day. Yelling at them before they go to bed, but wondering why they're in there fidgeting and moving around. And that bothers me because that creates, childhood trauma. Now that's something that these kids and a lot of people, this unpopular opinion, because I've said something about it before on social media, and people were like, oh, well, my parents yelled at me. That doesn't mean it was right. That does not mean it was right. That is what breaking the generational language trauma is about. And that reminds me about a story, which I'm going to ask Dia to share it here in just a few, about the ham. I shared this story with someone the other day when I was at a basketball game. But getting back to my question, so Dia, put a pin right there, because I think that's going to really help a lot of people. And like you said, word choice, feeling like you have to cuss somebody out or say some degrading things to get your point across. You're using the verbiage, you're always doing this, you're never like playing the blame game, but it's like, that's just unprocessed trauma. And then it also shows up expecting rejection. Sometimes you're not allowing a person to truly show you their most authentic self because you're already expecting some type of rejection, some type of negative response, or just agreeing just to avoid conflict. And I can say that was something prior to going on this healing journey. That was something that I was definitely guilty of. I'm divorced now, but in my past marriage, I would often find myself just agreeing just to keep the peace. But once I started on that healing journey, it's like, whoa, no, we're not going to do that, because now I'm suppressing more emotions. That's more trauma that I get to heal from. Or even shutting down, because I'm not a person, I grew up in a household seeing, you know, on my father's side, him and his wife or his ex-wife, you know, they divorced now, but I never ever one time heard those people get into an argument.
Wow.
So it's like, in turn, hearing somebody yelling and cussing and fussing at me, I'm like, well, I'm more so trying to process it. I'm probably looking at your body language more than when I'm listening to what it is that you're saying. So just it's taking that moment, like you said, to just cool down and just say, all right, let's revisit this, you know, when the tension is clear. And rather than shutting down and, you know, just saying, oh, I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to respond to that, because then you're showing disregard for the other person's feelings.
Mm-hmm. And being passive aggressive, you know, just kind of in a roundabout way saying things. And again, not at all really talking about the real true issue. You just want to, if I just kind of roundabout say certain things, and it's like, no, we don't want to be passive aggressive either. We want to use our words intentional.
Absolutely.
Unprocessed trauma leaks through tone, assumptions, and reactivity. Before you speak, pause. Process what's real, fact check the story in your head, and choose your words intentionally. Regulation protects relationships. Impulse damages them.
So with that being said, that brings us to our final question of tonight, family. We asked, what does emotional fluency look like in practice for you now? And what would you tell someone who feels emotionally stuck or unheard?
Well, I want to take the time now to implement this what I call landing the plane analogy. And in this, I would say, let's say that turbulence is the adversity that's taking place in your life. And so in order to land this plane safely, we have to make sure that the runway is clear of some of the past experiences that we have dealt with. And so if we are dealing with the amygdala, is the what we perceive as threats, and we're hyper vigilant, then everything may appear to be a threat. So if it's a threat, then we express it or yell at it as if it is a threat. So the first thing we have to do is we have to calm the alarm system. So this what perceived as a threat. When we perceive things as a threat, the logic side of our thinking goes offline. So that's why we can't make healthy choices or even express ourselves, because our word selection and the healthy choices of expressing ourselves is going offline. So we only do what we have been programmed to do, and that's usually the wrong thing. Yell, get upset, curse each other out. So those things. So we have to calm that alarm system and say that it's okay to use the thinking brain and not the perceived threat brain and survival-based thinking. The next thing is to sweep those obstacles from the runway. Like I say, negative emotional debris and these old patterns that have hindered our growth. So we have to selectively remove these things. Next is open the control tower. And what I mean by this is alerting your guidance. Pause, as Dia noted earlier, reflect, and then ask for guidance. Because if we're not thinking straight, then we're probably not reacting straight. So we want to make sure that we get guidance on this step. The next thing is to signal emotional permission. This is where we clarify that or reaffirm that things are safe. If we have been living in chaos and in a type of hostile environment, we may need clarity that it is safe in order for us to express ourselves or even show any type of emotion. The last thing is for us to prepare a safe landing, and we do so by changing our expectations from what was to expressing freely what is. So I say we can use this method because if we don't believe that emotions or this is a safe place, then we simply won't bring these emotions out. We'll keep them tucked in where we think that we're doing ourselves justice by guarding these emotions and not bringing them out. However, the environment has to support these emotions. So we have to create like this platform here. This is a safe space. So it's okay to express ourselves and our perceived thoughts. Whether the audience agrees or not, this just us having a conversation. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Mr. Al, for that. Definitely. I love that
Yes.
analogy of landing the plane, on a safe. Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. All right. And Dia, how would you say what would you say emotional fluency looks like in practice for you now?
Um, I think it's one of those things that for me, it's a daily thing. We grow daily, and where you may feel like you have excelled in one area, you may notice that, but I'm still kind of sensitive in this other area. And so for me, I just, as much as I grow in learning, like I was talking about earlier, how I learned that it is, it's good for me to take a moment so that I can, get in at one with what's going on the inside. But I still recognize that there are certain places, certain things, certain triggers, certain things that can happen that, might still get me to move a little quick in words that I might say and stuff like that. And so I am aware enough in myself to know you still have room to grow. And when you think about those defense mechanisms and things of that nature, experiences in life where, I know when I was younger and we didn't have all the time, we were limited in resources and things of that nature. And so I taught myself to expect the worst. So that way, when I didn't get the things that I was hoping for, if I didn't have the money to go on the trip, or if I didn't have the money to, be able to go on the field trip to get stuff, and I would kind of, my defense mechanism would be, okay, well, I'm going to expect the worst. I'm going to expect that I don't get this. I'm going to expect that I'm not going to have this. And that way, if it doesn't happen, I won't be disappointed because I already expected the worst. And these are certain things that, have grown up with me in life. So I have been okay accepting what I get because, well, I don't want to expect too much, because if I don't get it, then I'm going to be disappointed. And so with having that, then I don't know how to advocate for myself when I should be advocating for myself in certain things, when I should be looking at, no, you are darn good at doing this at work. You need to talk about this. You should be sharing this. When it's time for evaluations, you should be asking for that raise because you deserve that. But because inside it's like, well, I don't want to expect too much. I don't want to, so I don't have the words to advocate for myself because I don't want to set myself up to think I'm supposed to get something and I don't. Now I got poo-poo on my face because people are talking and say, how dare she think she's supposed to have that? Well, how you, these kinds of narratives. And so this is where that daily work comes in. And I have to stop these certain thoughts, these intrusive thoughts that tell me that I shouldn't be advocating for myself, or that I shouldn't be, looking at myself and expecting the best and expecting that I should have you know what I mean? So for me, it's just celebrating the work that I have, the place that I have come in my life, and then also being aware that there is still areas that still continue to need that work. so that I can be the best person that I can be, communicate the best. I can pass it on to my daughter to know you are worth advocating for yourself, you know, and doing the same for those around me. So
Oh, yeah. Thank you definitely for sharing that. And it's 3 points, just off of what you and Mr. Al have spoken on. One, emotional fluency, like you said, looks like stewarding your own thoughts. And then 2, with it being a daily thing, I even have a tattoo of this because that was one thing that just came to me several years ago, where it says grow through what you go through. And then something that I want to pull from our episode 1 that Mr. Al spoke on, and it ties in, even with emotional fluency, where he spoke about acknowledging that we may not be completely healed, but gaining strength from the parts of you that are healed. So for me, emotional fluency looks like taking a second and just saying, okay, let me gather my thoughts right quick before I respond to this. And in part, those who are familiar with human design, that's part of my human design, being a responder, and just processing it, what I'm feeling physically in my body, and then taking ownership of my own feelings and expressing them rather than playing the blame game. Oh, you made me feel embarrassed. Or no, processing it and taking ownership of my own feelings. And what I would say to someone who may be feeling stuck, or what advice I would give to them, is ensuring them that vulnerability is not weakness, and that it's safe to rest your sword. Like I said earlier when we were having the conversation about men, but just reassuring them that it's safe to rest your sword, and just start opening up in small steps. Perhaps expressing what it is that you need as opposed to what it is that you don't care for. Because if we don't openly express what it is that we need, we're not walking around a bunch of mind readers. Like you said, the other person may not even know what it is that you are seeking. And of course, by just reiterating that you're worthy, you are worthy of being heard. And so, as we prepare to wrap up the conclusion of this episode, I want to circle it back to, we are setting the intention of healing generational trauma, generational language trauma. And I'm going to ask Dia to share the story about the ham, because it's like, yeah, you'll see once she shares it.
Yes, this is something that me and my mom, we were talking about one time, and it just it just kind of was like an eye opener. But it's a story about how women prepared their ham, this particular family, and the young daughter, she was watching her mom prepare her ham, and the mother was cutting the ends off of the ham. And so the daughter asked her mom, "Ma, why you cut the ends off the ham whenever you cook it?" It's like, "Well, because my mama did it." And so she was like, "Oh, okay. Well, why did she do it?" So she's like, "I don't know." So then they went to the grandmother and asked, "Hey, why did you cut the ends off the ham whenever you could, fix your ham?" She said, "I don't know, because my mama did it." Like, "Well, why did she do it?" "I don't know." So then they go to the great grandmother. Ask the great grandmother, "Why did you cut the ends off the ham when you fixed the ham?" She was like, "Because my pan was too small." So all this time, they were cutting the end off the ham because great grandma did it that way, but she only did it because the pan was too small. They did not have to keep cutting the ends off their ham, because they had big enough pans, but they had no idea why they did it. And no one ever thought to ask until the young daughter finally asked her mother why she did it. So.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes. See what I'm saying, Mr. Al? Why I had to just be quiet and let her just share it, because tying it in with this episode is like, it's really the story of how generational language trauma keeps getting passed from generation to generation, because nobody is taking the initiative to just stop and say, you know what, why are we yelling at these kids? Why are we talking like this? Why we feel like we got to cuss and fuss? Why?
We don't have to continue.
Yeah. Yes.
This was good, y'all.
It was. And I just want to thank the audience, for tuning in and for joining us in hopefully, you know, from this episode, you will grasp again, it's we understand that things don't necessarily happen overnight.
That's right.
But it has to start somewhere. So we invite you to start here with us, breaking that cycle of generational language trauma and beefing and strengthening the emotional fluency.
Absolutely.
Emotional fluency is learned, not inherited. Pause before reacting. Clear old patterns. And choose expression over survival mode. Just because something was passed down doesn't mean it must be carried forward. You are worthy of being heard and of breaking the cycle.
Right, family, tune back in and remember this. We'll have more episodes to come, and in the end we win. Make sure you practicing self-care and take care of yourself.
And if you will, we ask that you will like this video, hit that subscribe button so you can join us along this journey of healing, and we will look forward to our next episode on next month. Thank you for joining.